Hello lovelies, welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to do a different kind of video and talk about how to make the most out of your fragrance, whether it's the actual fragrance that you purchase, the way that you store it, and the way that you apply it when you actually go to wear it. So I'm going to be talking about those 3 items today, and let's jump into it. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about was the types of perfumes that you can get. And the strongest or the most concentrated fragrance that you can get is the perfume oil, and that is what is diluted in other fragrances like EDTs and perfumes, so that you can get a spritz instead of an actual oil application. And there are various reasons why they do that. However, I'm not going to go into that too much. The other types of perfumes, or the variations of perfume, just has to do with the content of perfume oil. The pure perfume is considered to be about typically 20%, usually between 15 to 40% perfume oil. The second one is eau de parfum, which is between 15 to 20% perfume oil and generally about 15%. And then you have EDT, which is the eau de toilette, which is between 5 to 15%. I'm reading off of a wiki page right now. And then the typical percentage is about 10%. And they're referring to it as aromatic compounds. I don't know if that's a one-to-one relationship with perfume oil, so I'm going to put that out there. And then you have eau de cologne, which is typically just called cologne, and that's between 3 and 8% and generally stays around 5% of the aromatic compound. So you can get different variations in the perfume oil within the fragrance that you purchase. Also, the more expensive the perfume, you tend to get a little bit higher concentration. Like what this says here, Perfume is between 15 to 30, and some Bond fragrances, for example, like their signature New York scent, has about 30% concentration, and they're calling it a pure perfume. So that is definitely going to last longer on the skin. The higher concentrations are definitely going to be lasting longer on the skin. And they, in my opinion, are more enjoyable because you get to enjoy them throughout their entire development process, including the top notes, the middle notes, and the base notes. And that in itself is an enjoyment for me, or that's part of the enjoyment for me. So when it comes to me purchasing fragrances, I tend to stay on the higher concentration, and I usually stick with houses that have a reputation for higher perfume content. So things like Bond number 9, let's see, Montal has a high percentage. Bond, I believe, is from 18 to 22% as an average, and as I mentioned with their signature scent, it does tend to get quite a bit higher than that in terms of the concentration. And when you're trying a fragrance, I definitely recommend putting it on your skin to see how it does wear. There are certain fragrances like this one, La Tulipe, that I always reference when it comes to longevity. That one is from Byredo, and that one just did not last well on my skin. So you can have different variations on the type of longevity compared to the concentration, and it does also have to do with the actual notes in your fragrance. You can have fragrances like incense or ambergris, and those are much more potent and forward than some other lighter notes like citrus. Even though they do sometimes have a higher oil concentration, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be lasting longer on your skin. So I definitely recommend trying them on your skin before you purchase them, but generally higher perfume oil concentration means more longevity in the long term. Some people also say that alcohol, usually the alcohol that dilutes the perfumes, the only benefit beyond just diluting it and allowing it to be more of a spritz is that it helps the top notes be a little bit more robust. Because with oils, you tend to not have quite so much of a top note. So the higher percentages, higher concentrations generally equate to more longevity, though that is not always the case depending on the types of notes. I do have a couple perfume oils, and these definitely last very well on the skin. One of them is Kai perfume oil. This one I find lasts a very long time, and I don't need that much of it. It is a very white floral fragrance. I've talked about it before, but it is very potent, and it has a fairly decent sillage. Some people argue that the perfume oils are a little bit more personal and you have to be closer to smell them. I don't find that they have any less of a sillage just because I tend to put a little bit more of them on, though they are quite concentrated. I'm not sure. I haven't really noticed a huge difference. Another perfume oil that I have as well is Belle d'Afrique by Rito. And this one is quite nice. This one is a little bit more subtle compared to the Kai perfume oil. They're very enjoyable. I like them. They have a tendency to transfer if you touch stuff. If you do put a lot on, though, they tend to absorb fairly well into the skin, and we'll get into application a little bit later on. Some people also say that the oils are better for longevity because they have the slower evaporation, which is certainly true. Oils definitely do not evaporate as quickly as alcohol. Alcohol is used because it evaporates very quickly. So if you get a smell of a fragrance that you just put on and it smells like pure alcohol or boozy, that is what that is. You have to wait for that to dry down, which is where that term comes from. And you have to wait for the fragrance to dry down, which is where that term comes from. The dry down of the alcohol so that you can smell the perfume oil of the fragrance. So if you hear people say waiting for the dry down, that is what they're referring to, waiting for the alcohol to evaporate. And oils are used because they are great carriers of flavor and fragrance. If you bake, I personally love buttercream, and buttercreams carry flavor so well. And that similar concept applies to perfumes. Those oils really carry that fragrance very well. And I've seen that jojoba oils, very pure oils, are used, and of course those are unfragranced. So with oils comes the risk of rancidity, which is one of the main things that you want to be careful of when you are going to store your fragrances. So when it comes to rancidity, you can actually look up rancidification on Wikipedia, and it is super helpful. This applies to both food grade oils and perfume oils, but there are 3 ways that rancidification can occur. And one is hydrolytic, and that is related to the esters. The esters, which are the more fruity notes in fragrances, can degrade more quickly because the esters are more susceptible to that hydrolytic degradation. Wikipedia says it refers to the odor that develops when triglycerides are hydrolyzed and free fatty acids are released. So it basically just means a breakdown of the fragrance, and that affects those top notes of the fragrance, more likely the fruity notes. Keeping your fragrances cool will help avoid that. Okay, let's work. Okay, please, let's work. Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so after the hydrolytic degradation, you have the potential for oxidative rancidity, which has to do with oxygen. If you have a broken bottle, if you have a bottle with a cap that comes off, that oxygen can get in there and it can eventually degrade the oils. Of all the ways that rancidity can occur, it results in a sour or off-smelling perfume that you would eventually have to toss. So if you do have your oils and they do get rancid, you're probably going to have to throw them away. I don't know why you wouldn't, but it basically ruins the fragrance. So you do want to try to avoid that if at all possible. So when you have a fragrance, you do want to try to keep it away from the air. If your bottle breaks or cracks it or it's leaking, you should decant that and put it in something that's airtight. I tend to avoid those ones that you take out the lid and you pour it, or you use an applicator that can do other things like taking oil from your skin and getting it back into the bottle, but that's an aside from the oxidation issue. And then you also have microbial rancidity, which is just the bacteria or molds breaking down the fat. And that's done by sterilization, which is generally done at the manufacturer. You don't tend to have to deal with that as much here, though having your fragrances in a cool, dry place helps to avoid that. You should keep the oils away from sunlight and heat. If you keep your oils in your kitchen by your oven, you should move those into your cupboard because that's bad for them too. So you should keep your perfumes away from the sunlight and the heat. That can break down the oils as well and can lead to them breaking down and ultimately going bad. With that, you should keep your fragrances out of the bathroom. It's wet. It's not a good environment. It's basically asking for mold and mildew to come up, and that is a welcome environment for the microbial rancidity. So you want to avoid all of those things when you are storing your fragrances. We tend to keep ours, especially the ones we use frequently or the ones that are cheaper, out and accessible. So that is our choice. We accept the risk factors of having them out in the sunlight, like right here, because we want to just use them. If you have a really nice, high quality fragrance, I would highly recommend keeping them somewhere dark and cool. It doesn't have to be a wine cooler like we have, which mine is right here, which is why I keep looking at it. But it does really help to keep those top notes and the full fragrance over time. We definitely have more fragrances than we could use in our lifetimes, so we want to keep them lasting as long as possible, especially the nicer ones that we really enjoy. As I was mentioning earlier, the roller balls or the sprays tend to be better just because you don't open the cap and let the oxygen in there. Also, you do see some with a cap that comes off that you can wipe on your body. That's not so good because you've got the oils from your body and whatever you have, as well as the oxygen getting into the bottle, and that all occurs when you apply it, and that happens over multiple days as you wear it over the course of time and can lead to the rancidity of the oils and your perfume going bad. Now that we are through with that section, we are going to get into the skin prep, or how you actually wear or apply the perfumes and perfume oils. So the, I guess, biggest comment that everyone has is making sure you have moisturized skin. I agree with that. You definitely have to have moisturized skin. I think that you should have no fragranced items besides your fragrance. That includes the lotion that you use. You can also use oils like jojoba, almond, whatever else you use. Everything is fragranced these days, so it's sometimes actually hard to find something that's not fragranced. I tend to go for the non-comedogenic fragrances like Cetaphil. I've got an Aveeno moisturizing lotion here as well. I honestly can't be bothered to put on lotion. I don't really enjoy the process. I don't really do it. So I have a humidifier that I just recently purchased mostly because it's winter and my skin was crying and my eyes were crazy dry. So I just purchased a humidifier, and that has been doing wonders for my skin. So if you don't like to wear lotion, or if you just want to have a humidifier or do something else, like use a bath oil or a moisturizing like bath soap, that works too. I do like bath oils. That L'Occitane almond oil is really good, though it is fragranced. It does help moisturize your skin. Totally up to you. Moisturized skin does help your fragrance to seep into the skin and last longer. Moisturizing helps definitely, so you can start with that. People also suggest putting fragrances on your pulse points, which is where you can feel your heartbeat, because that tends to be slightly warmer, and the warmth of your skin really exudes that fragrance that you put there. That's why you see people dabbing it behind their ears. I've heard that it's not great to put it behind your ears because you've got other oily, weird things going on back there. I don't ever put it behind my ear. I either put it on my throat and on my arms. That's what I like to do. I have had success with it. I like to put it on my chest because I like to smell it. I do find that putting it in my hair is really great, and it lasts a very long time. I don't know if it's because my hair maybe enjoys the moisture, but it is a great carrier of fragrances. So ladies, if you like to have your hair smelling nice, or if you want to have it last a long time, add some to your hair. I just leave my hair as it is like this, and I spray my chest, and it gets on my hair and also on my clothes, and it works out well for me. I really don't put too much thought into where I put it. Generally, if I want a bigger sillage or I want more fragrance, I'll apply a bit more. So you do want to have clean skin when you put on your fragrances. That definitely helps to make them last longer and be more true to the scent. And you also don't want to get your applicators gross if you've got a roller ball or something like that. When you do put on your fragrances, you should allow them to dry down, especially if it's a spritz. Put it on your skin and allow it to dry down and that alcohol to evaporate. Rubbing it has been said to be bad for fragrances. I don't do it. I've heard that it can make it evaporate more quickly, rub it into the skin. It doesn't make it as fragrant. And one of the last items too, when it comes to wearing fragrances, the food that you eat can affect the way that your fragrance smells and how it reacts with it. So having a very fatty diet, like a lot of fried foods, or a very spicy diet, like a lot of curries or Thai spices and things like that, those can definitely affect your smell, which can in turn affect the smell of the fragrance, which is also a contributing factor as to why fragrances smell different on everyone. So with that, fragrances, especially the ones with a higher perfume concentration, are more enjoyable for me, and they also tend to be a little bit more expensive because they do last longer, they're more true to scent, and they're just higher quality. That said, for fragrances, if you want to get the most use out of them and make the most out of them, wear them, and don't be skimpy when you do put them on. I think it's similar to skincare. If you get a really nice, expensive skincare that's going to work really well, but you don't use enough of it to actually make a difference, you're not really getting the benefit of the skincare. So you should definitely wear your fragrances, wear enough of them. I not only like for my fragrances to be detectable by me, so I like to smell them, but I also like other people to smell them. So I put quite a few sprays on. If I've got a really light citrus fragrance, I can put like up to 8 sprays on my body. If it's a very intense fragrance, I only put 1 or 2 sprays because that is enough. You really just have to know your fragrance, know the notes, citruses, lights, florals. Those tend to require more application and maybe a second application throughout the day. But that's okay, because we get them to enjoy them. We get them not to wear them so sparingly that we can't even smell them. So definitely put them on. If you get a nice fragrance, wear it. Wear enough of it so that you can enjoy it and others can enjoy it as well. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say, and if you have anything to contribute or add on or clarify about what I've said already. But perfumes are really about what you enjoy, and you should make it about that. Alrighty guys, that's it for today. Like the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if I've earned it. And I am going to be doing my videos every other week now. That's a little bit more sustainable for my schedule. So I look forward to seeing you guys and hearing what you have to say in the comments. I will talk to you soon. Have a great one.